Hey, this is Jonesy from Jonesy TV coming at you with a review for DC Legends of Tomorrow Season 1. I've discussed throughout my reviews the positives of the seasons, the negatives, and really I think the positives outweigh the negatives here when we look at the season, look throughout the season. Um, so let's look at the positives. Well, Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell play their roles perfectly. Captain Cold and Heatwave are some of the best things that happened to superhero TV in a long time, and they were just fantastic throughout the whole season. So that's definitely a plus. I liked Sarah Lance's White Canary here better than I did an Arrow. As the Black Canary, she just did a great job, and her character is really well fleshed out. I also liked Rip a lot. Rip was a good character. There's a lot of emotional gravitas. Even though sometimes he seemed like more of a jerk than he had to for a plot device, I still think that his character was great. Speaking of Mick Rory, too, and the fact that Dominic Purcell portrayed him as Kronos and portrayed him coming back to their side, that whole arc was just fantastic, and the whole conflict between Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell's Heatwave and Captain Cold was simply amazing, and it was one of the best things this show had going for it. Uh, Not only that, but I would have to say that on top of that, the battles and the fight scenes and the CGI in this series were off the charts. They were amazing. They were simply wonderful, and I feel like it's actually one of the best looking TV shows I've seen in a long time, and that's saying a lot considering I watch a lot of sci-fi and a lot of shows that rely heavily on CGI, and so I really think the look of this show is nice, and I feel it's original too, and they really utilize the time travel well in this show. I liked every location they went to. I don't think there was any one that was bland, and they didn't stay in one spot too long. So that was great. And the fact that they made the Time Masters become the villains at the end of the season was just a great idea too by the writers. Now let's look at the negatives. I didn't like Casper Crump's performance as Vandal Savage as like I didn't like it as much as I think I should have. The character was there. He was very straightforward. He was menacing at times, but most of all, he was just annoying. He just seemed like this thorn on their side, and it seemed like the Time Masters were the real villain of the season, and I guess that's what they were going for, and that really worked out in the end. But throughout the beginning of the season, I just remember seeing him and being like, man, Casper Crump really needs to get his acting together. He was one of the weak points of the show, which is funny. And it's the whole thing the Marvel Cinematic Universe has, the problem they have. They just can't come up with, like, really good villains. Think about it. Uh, Obadiah Stane, even though he was good in Iron Man 1, he wasn't very good. I didn't like Whiplash in Iron Man 2. I didn't like uh, whoever the villain was from Ant-Man. I know that he was terrible, but and even in DC, just in television and movies in general, like Suicide Squad, the villain was terrible, and Enchantress was an awful villain. However, I like the Joker, but I'll be talking about that this Saturday on the GeekCast. But honestly, Casper Crump could have done a better job portraying his character, or they should have cast him. I think he was a miscast. And speaking of miscast, Kendra and Carter were miscast horribly. Growing up watching the Justice League cartoon, Hawkman and Hawkgirl were like uh, some of the essential Justice League members. They were always so cool. They were always awesome, but they just butchered their portrayal in this, and they weighed them down with a terrible romantic subplot. It was just awful, and I found myself seeing every scene with Kendra just wanting to throw up because it was just so bad. And luckily, the other performances outweighed it, but Hawkman and Hawkgirl were simply awful. Now, I that doesn't ruin the whole season though. Those things, like I said, are very greatly outweighed by the rest of the season. And so I'd have to give the season as a whole, I'd have to give it a 9.0 out of 10. I can't give it above a 9.0 because the Carter Kendra, and Savage problem was just very blatantly obvious, but at the same time, everything else was amazing about this. And the show consistently got better, it evolved. And I think a lot of reviewers just look at the first episode, and of shows just in general, and they say, well, this show's not going to be any good. No, you got to look at the progression. And if you really watch this show episode by episode, it gets continually better. The characters get more fleshed out, and the plot really starts gelling. And so I think it was great. And I'm super pumped for season 2 to see the Justice Society of America and everything that is entailed with that. And I honestly, if Arrow would have ended in season 4, I would have been fine with that. And it didn't leave a good cliffhanger like this. And so I think this show has more of a future than a lot of shows in the CW and just in TV in general. So again, I'd give it a 9.0 out of 10. Season 1 of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Go check out the rest of my DC Legends of Tomorrow reviews. The reviews are in the link in the description. Links in the description. Remember to like and subscribe, and check out just all my reviews. This has been Jonesy from Jonesy TV, signing off.